Hello. So in the previous lesson, we installed IntelliJ, and now we can start to work with the code. So we will click on the Create New Project. We need to make sure that the version appears here, otherwise you won't be able to run the program. We click on Next, Next, and we give it a name. It could be anything we want. Let's just call it My First Test. And we click Finish, and we come to this screen. We will go to the place that says My First Test, and we will click on the source folder. Right click, Java class. We can call it the way we want. Let's call it Mike. So we created our first class. Even if you don't understand all the words and all the meanings, it's okay. You will learn them as we go. We will start from basic and we will go up and learn all the things here, so don't worry about it. Now I just created the main method. Again, you will learn what it is later. So one of the most common building blocks in Java are variables. Variables are like boxes in which you can store different types of information. So let's say we create a variable called box. So this is the name of the variable. We can give it any name we want, but, and that's a very big but, the Java syntax, which is the right way to code in Java, only allows us to write it in certain ways. So usually if we write it all in lowercase, it's a good way. If we write it like this, big box, it's also a good way. So we can use the uppercase letter in the middle, like at the beginning of the second word, but the first letter always has to be lowercase. And I will explain the reason why, but this is, let's say, the most standard way to write variable names. We can also write box1, it's also fine. We can write box1 like this, it's also fine. The thing is that IntelliJ is very intelligent, so it always gives us little hints about the code. So that's very helpful. We can do mistakes and it will just show us the mistakes. And this is also a very good way to learn the right way to code. And let's say if I write box like this, IntelliJ won't hint me that there's something wrong. But programmers usually just don't do it. So those are also things you will learn, and you will learn not always to trust IntelliJ, and sometimes do trust and do look at the little hints. So another wrong way is to write a variable with a space in the middle. When there's a space, it means it's a different word, it's a different thing. So we can see this red hint and it says semicolon expected, because if we put the semicolon here, it means the program, this line of program is finished. But then we have this little piece that don't belong. So now also we have a red hint because we already have the box. So that's another thing. We can't have the same name twice for a variable because you won't know where to go. So you don't do it. You don't put spaces in the middle, no uppercase letters in the beginning, no numbers in the beginning, and no other weird signs like this. Because just don't do it. Okay, so another important thing to know is that the names are sensitive, case sensitive. So if I write int box and int box, it will be two different variables, even if eventually it's the same word and it sounds the same and even the same letters. But IntelliJ makes it different. It doesn't understand that it's the same word. So make sure that when you write a variable, it has the correct lower cases and upper cases. So this will be different than this. Okay. Another very important thing is that when we write a name for the variable, we give it a very good name. So we won't just write int b. Although it's fine, it's a fine name, and sometimes we want it to be just one character long. But there's two things. When you build some program and then you come back to it and you see int b, you won't always remember exactly what does it mean. Another thing is that when you're gonna work in some company with other programmers and they will come to your code, or you will work on some kind of same project and they will come to the code and they will see something like this, they won't really understand what it is and what it is used for. So always make it a good name. Box. We know it's a box. We want to create a car, we just call it car, not C. Because C can be many things and you won't understand what it is. So just call it in a good name, even if it's like more complicated names like max price. So call it like this. If you call it price, then it's a different thing. And if you will start to work with this one or something like this, it's not a good name. This is a good name. Max price. Okay. So now we understood the right way to give names to a variable. We're going to see what we can do with it. This is the name of the data type that we can put in this variable. So this stands for integer. Integer is every number that is whole, like 1, 4, 77, 100. So these are integers. And this is the type of data you can put inside this box because it says this is the type. But the integer can only have a certain size. So if we put like number 10, everything will be fine. And it says box equals to 10. 10 integers. Not exactly 10 integers, but it means that the number 10, which is an integer. The integer type can be maxed out at 2 billion and something. So we don't put a comma. 1, 2, 3. That's it, yeah. Let's see. 0, 0, and 1 more. So it's 2 billion. Up to about 2 billion something. That's the largest number you can put it. If you will put 3 billion, we will have an error. See, integer number too large. You can check the exact number, and there's a funny story that when they built YouTube, they made the views count an integer. So the first time a video got so many views, it was Gangnam Style. And the second it passed the 2 billion and something, the YouTube just crashed because it couldn't handle the size anymore. So they had to rewrite it all over again. Not everything, but a part of it, and just change it to a long. A long can contain a very, very large number. Maybe not this big. Let's see. Yeah, that's a long. When you put a big L in the end, it becomes a long. And you can put, you see, long. No, okay, now it's too large. But you see, it's a very long number, and we usually don't use such long numbers. But you need to understand, and later it will be crucial, depends on the program you want to build, that every data type and every integer and everything takes up memory. So the long data type integer, data type variable will be more heavy on the memory than, let's say, the integer. So if you want to write the number 2000, you can use a long for it, but it's not efficient because it will take more memory and doesn't matter the number inside. So the other type we have is short. Short is a shorter number than integer, and it takes even less memory than integer, but sometimes it can cause problems. So usually if we are not concerned with memory problems or something, we will just stick to int. So now we assigned box to 2000. It means box equals 2000. 2000 somethings. It could be 2000 apples. It can be whatever you want. We also have something called a double. A double is actually, let's say, call it double box. Let's not call it the same name. Let's call it house. Okay. So in double, we can put numbers that have a decimal point. Because if we put a decimal point in the int, we will have a problem. See, required int found double. So when we want to work with like money and change and fractions, then we won't use int because it's gonna make us a lot of problems. So in double we can use and put numbers on the right side of the point, and we will get whatever we want. The other one is float, which is also like the double, but this one takes less memory. So if you're concerned with memory, and usually we won't be concerned because we have lots of gigabytes on the computers and on the mobile devices. This one is also for numbers with a decimal point, and it's less precise than the double. So just don't use it. But if you run into it, you will know what it is. Double is the best thing to use for things like that. It's also more precise than the float. So we learned the few data types of variables. The next video I will show you a few more data types, and then we will start working with operators and the way you can assign values inside of a variable, and I will show you how to print stuff, and it will be fun. So join me the next lesson, number 2, and subscribe to get it first.